Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. If you've ever stood in an aisle and felt just completely overwhelmed by the endless rules, the random numbers, and all that dense scientific jargon of sun protection, well, you are in the perfect place. Today, we're going to take all that confusing science of sunscreen and totally transform it. We're going to build a simple, highly logical mental model that you can actually use every single day. Because let's be real here, staring at the sunscreen aisle is just incredibly frustrating. There are so many acronyms, right? So many rigid instructions you feel like you have to memorize. Honestly, it almost feels like taking a pop quiz in chemistry class just to go for a walk outside. But I promise you, by the end of this explainer, you are not going to need to memorize a single checklist. Instead, you'll completely understand the underlying logic behind these labels, which is going to make your choices crystal clear. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, why skin needs shielding. Second, how sunlight impacts skin. Third, how sunscreen actually works. Fourth, decoding SPF, UVA, and UVB. And finally, number 5, confidence in real life. Starting us off, Section 1. Why skin needs shielding. Skin as a dynamic wall. Now, it is absolutely crucial to realize right off the bat that your skin isn't just, decoration. It's your body's dynamic front wall. It's a living, breathing boundary working continuously to keep your inside stable while facing this invisible, constantly changing pressure from the outside world. And really, that brings us to the core mantra of this entire explainer. I want you to lock onto this exact sentence. The sun sends energy, skin absorbs some of it, and sunscreen changes how much gets through. We're going to keep coming back to this idea over and over because it's literally the foundation of the whole system we're building today. See, a lot of the confusion out there actually comes from a basic myth. This idea that sunscreen somehow puts this magical, invisible force field around you, making you totally invincible to the sun. It doesn't, not at all. Instead, I want you to think of it like a heavy tarpaulin strapped over a truck during a big delivery run. That tarp, it doesn't make the cargo invincible. It simply creates a physical barrier against the harshest weather exposure so that the load arrives safely and in good condition. Sunscreen works in that exact same spirit. It's just a shield that reduces damage while still letting life happen. Moving on to Section 2, how sunlight impacts skin. Repeated small expenses. So, what does all that solar energy actually do when it hits our boundary? Well, remember, your skin is alive. It's active. When strong sunlight hits it, your skin immediately deploys what is essentially an emergency response team. It might ramp up pigment production, it physically thickens its outer layer, and it kicks off these complex internal cell repair processes. It's kind of like a super busy shopkeeper frantically restocking shelves, or a homeowner scrambling to place buckets during a massive monsoon. It can definitely handle some stress, right? It can fix a few leaks. But if that pressure just keeps coming relentlessly, that repeated exposure simply overwhelms the system, and those natural repair mechanisms just can't keep up. All right, Section 3, how sunscreen actually works. Filter, not force field. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing how we actually help out our busy shopkeeper. There are basically two main strategies sunscreens use to interrupt that incoming solar energy. Some filters work by absorbing the UV. They act just like a sponge, soaking up a spill before it can spread everywhere. Others work by reflecting or scattering the UV away, acting like tiny little road barriers, nudging traffic off to the side. But either way, the journey of that sunlight is fundamentally altered before it ever gets the chance to interact with your living cells. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Sunscreen acts as a temporary protective layer on a surface that is very much alive and constantly moving. You sweat, your clothes rub against you, you stretch, you move around. Think of it exactly like a protective film on a smartphone screen. If that film peels off or gets a scratch, or maybe it was applied unevenly, which, let's face it, we've all done, parts of the screen underneath are left totally exposed. This brilliantly illustrates why reapplying your sunscreen isn't just some random annoying rule your dermatologist made up. It's a logical, physical necessity to maintain that temporary filter against your environment. Which brings us to Section 4, decoding SPF, UVA, and UVB. Let's understand those labels. Okay, now that we truly understand the physical filter and why it demands maintenance, let's decode the actual jargon printed on those bottles. We'll start with the big one, SPF. People so often mistake SPF as this absolute definitive force meter of strength. It is not. SPF is simply a measure of how much UVB-related burning power the sunscreen lets through compared to your unprotected skin.
Just imagine two windows in a room. One blocks most of the sunlight, the other blocks slightly less. But both windows still let some light through, right? No SPF is an infinite blockade. It's simply a filter that reduces your total load.
And what exactly are we filtering out? Sunlight actually has a couple different forms of impact. UVB, well, UVB is like a really loud alarm. It hits the upper layers of your skin and causes that immediate visible dent of a sunburn. Ouch, right? But UVA, on the other hand, that's the slow wear and tear. It goes way deeper, quietly degrading the paint and the underlying structure of your skin over time without you ever even feeling it. This contrast is exactly why seeking broad spectrum protection is absolutely vital. You need a shield that can handle both the loud alarm and that quiet, hidden damage.
And remember, and this is super important, this damage doesn't just happen on some blazing summer beach day. Just look at this timeline. A morning commute, a quick dash out for midday errands, an afternoon walk. It's all about the accumulation of time. Think of it like a slow drip water bucket. One single tiny drip seems completely harmless, right? Maybe even unnoticeable. But if you leave it there long enough, day after day, that bucket eventually overflows. Sun damage is exactly like that. It's the quiet accumulation of time and everyday exposure that slowly drains your skin's repair budget. And finally, Section 5, confidence in real life, building your routine. Let's bring all of these concepts together now. So the crucial point here is that your real-life protection is definitely not just a single SPF number printed on a piece of plastic. It's a highly dynamic system. Your actual safety out there depends on the sun's strength, your total exposure time, how evenly you apply that protective layer, its staying power through your sweat and movement, and whether it's got that broad UV defense. Protection is entirely about how you manage that layer on your skin out in the real world.
Which leaves us with this final, really vital question to ask yourself about your routine. Are you blindly trusting a label, or are you actively maintaining your shield? You've got the logic now. You know the sun sends energy, the skin absorbs it, and your sunscreen is simply the physical filter that you control. Thank you so much for learning with us today on this explainer. You now have the knowledge and the framework to go out and evaluate your daily routine with total confidence.